You know, we've been talking about Syria right now, and I raised it just a moment ago, and I just want to sort of go back and revisit this thing. I'm beginning to wonder whether or not in this Syria thing, whether we're being sort of diverted. It's almost like, a magician. What does a magician do? They force you to look at certain things while they're doing something else over here. And in this particular case, the misdirection might be aimed at a couple of things. Number one, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Benghazi. Every time you raise the specter of Benghazi with his administration, they have a reaction. They don't want to talk about it. We saw that yesterday with the Secretary of State during a congressional hearing. A very, very strong reaction. We saw it before when the previous Secretary of State was asked about it. A very strong reaction. Again, reaction designed to do what? Divert your attention. You're paying attention to the answer and not the question. We never get the questions answered. And then what else is going on? Well, we're heading into the implementation of Obamacare in the 1st of October. We're not talking about that thing. What we're talking about is Syria. And I'm wondering if that whole thing is sort of a diversion to sort of have us not talk about two things that the administration very much does not want them to talk about.
Well, that's one question we can ask our next guest, Stuart Varney. He is, of course, the anchor of Varney and Company on Fox Business, and he's got a good opinion on just about everything except ballroom dancing. I was very disappointed, Stuart Varney, to see that you were not included in the new cast of Dancing with the Stars.
Over my dead body.
Yeah, anything but dancing. That's right. Well, so what about it, Stuart? First of all, let's talk about the stock market doesn't like uncertainty, and right now with Obamacare is looming, and there's some uncertainty about that, and there's also great uncertainty about this thing with Syria. Are we going to strike? Are we not going to strike? The market doesn't like uncertainty generally, does it?
I'm surprised, however, at how little the stock market so far has sold off. We're still right around 15,000 on the Dow Industrial Average, which is a near record level. When you consider what may happen in Syria, I think that's really quite astonishing. And when you consider how weak this economy is, how weak the employment situation is, I really think it is astonishing that you've got a Dow at 15,000. The answer to this quandary is Ben Bernanke. He's printing up a ton of money. He's keeping interest rates relatively low so that bonds are less attractive than stocks. I think that's the answer to this conundrum.
But I thought that they were ramping that down. Didn't they send signals that they were going to slow down all of the printing
tapering,
press?
We call it.
Yeah, they're sending signals, but we don't know by how much they will cut the printing, and we don't know when they will start. So there's a lot of interest in the economic numbers that are coming out this week, in particular the jobs report tomorrow, and some of the jobs reporting that we've had today, which is pretty grim. That's why they're concentrating on that, because the weaker those numbers, the less likely Ben is to print less. So you've got this situation where bad news on the economy probably is good news for the stock market.
Stuart,
we've seen this before, but I think we're seeing it again right now.
Stuart, we know, of course, that you are a red-blooded American citizen, but you still talk funny, which tells me you were born somewhere else. I wonder if you can just give us a quick observation on that stunning defeat by Prime Minister Cameron when he asked for support. This is the first time since the 18th century that a Prime Minister did not get support from the House of Commons for a military endeavor.
I put that down to a hangover from the Iraq War. The Iraq War, very unpopular.
So it is Bush's fault.
Well, I'm not going to. Don't put words in my mouth.
I'm teasing you.
But there is this hangover in Britain, which is more pronounced than it is here. Anti-war feeling in Britain is very, very strong. So although the British understand the responsibility to stand up when human rights are degraded with poison gas, as they were in Syria, the British understand that responsibility. But because of the Iraq War, they're reluctant to get involved in any more fighting in the Middle East, rather like much of public opinion in the United States.
Yes.
It was expressed in Parliament there. I'm not sure whether it will be expressed in Congress here.
All right, I want to see if you can connect these two things. On one hand, we have a lot of employers who are cutting back the hours of their employees because they're worried about what it's going to cost them when Obamacare kicks in. So they're saying, okay, you were a full-time employee, but now you're at 29 and a half hours. You will never get that 30th hour no matter what. Okay, that's one thing. Over here, we also see, in many Democratic quarters, call after call after call after call on the local and the state and the national level to increase the minimum wage. Do you see a connection there?
There is a connection. It's a lousy connection. And increasing wages by government fiat is wrong. And it doesn't result in higher incomes, and it doesn't result in more jobs. There is a move to make $15 an hour the new minimum wage, which would be double the existing minimum wage. There's going to be a walkout today at Walmart stores across the country, some of them at least, demanding higher wages. Now, that's all well and good, and I understand where it's coming from, because the purchasing power of lower-paid workers is declining. Despite Obamonomics, it is declining. So you can understand the demand, pay me more for what I'm doing, pay me a living wage. But in the big picture, the big context, that kind of demand, that kind of government diktat on what you will earn does not work to create wealth, prosperity, or more jobs. In fact, it works the exact opposite way.
But let's call it what it is. It's a tax.
It is a tax.
And we all end up paying for it. It's not just a tax on businesses because they raise the cost of their items, their goods and services, so we're all paying it.
I'd just like to see America to return to market-oriented policy.
You're a dreamer, Stuart Varney.
Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Look, what America needs more than anything else is surely growth. How do you get growth? From vigorous competition and releasing the private sector to do what it does best.
Well,
that was conform to market forces.
And I'm wondering if the connection is not that, okay, so people are not being paid as much because their hours have been cut back, so we got to pay them more so they still have as much money as they did
Brian,
before.
You're right. There is that connection.
Yeah.
No question about it. The new jobs that's being created are largely part-time, which means you earn less in total. Hence the demand, hey, pay me more for the hours that I work.
So you're going to get paid more for like a 30-hour work week. We're like becoming France.
Wash your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. Stuart, always good to have you, and I'm beginning my online petition right now to get you on Dancing with the Stars. The America needs to see that. Give the people what they want.